What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Bryce, and today we're doing chapter 22 of the Parker Inheritance. Let's begin. Chapter 22. Candace had just sat down at a table and logged onto the Wi-Fi when Brandon and Miss McMillan returned. Brandon dropped the books on the table. They're heavier than they look. She reached for one of the Wallace High School yearbooks while Miss McMillan went to the storage room for the Perkins yearbooks. Brandon eyed the laptop. Did you have a chance to look up the court case? She shook her head. I wanted to find a plaque with James Parker's name on it. Anything of interest? No, I don't think so. She handed him Tori's phone, then opened the yearbook. Maybe we'll learn something about him in here. Okay, why don't you pass me your laptop and hand me your notes? I'll look up Briggs versus whatever it was while you go through the yearbooks. Candace decided to start by searching for Adam Douglas's son. She began with 1960 and worked her way backward, eventually finding him in the 1956 yearbook. He was a senior then. His nickname was Chip. Hey, can I use the laptop? She asked. I want to look up a picture of James Parker to compare him to Charles Douglas. In a second, Brandon said as he quickly scribbled something down. What? You found something? Maybe. He turned the laptop so she could see it. Briggs versus Elliott was a court case in Somerton, South Carolina in the 50s. It challenged school segregation. I heard about a case like that. I thought it was called Brown versus Board of Education. That's exactly what it was called. That was the one that went before the Supreme Court. Briggs versus Elliott was actually one of the 5 cases that made up the complete Brown versus Board case. He scrolled down the page. It's really interesting. They won the Supreme Court case in 1954, but the state still fought desegregation for years in some places. Did it take a long time here? She asked. I don't know, Brennan said. I'm pretty sure Perkins was always known as the black school up to when it was closed. So Leanne Washington was raising money to fight segregation, she said. That makes sense according to the letter. Integration helped Lambert's children, at least the black ones. The white ones too, Brennan said. Who wants to go to school where everyone looks the same? Facts. Yeah, but Candace shrugged. My mom graduated from an HBCU, Clark, Atlanta. I heard her give a talk about it once. She said she loved it. She felt challenged and she felt safe. I think she'll die a little inside if I decide to go somewhere else. Tori was talking about that school, or maybe it was Spelman, Brandon said. Though I think only because she wants to live in Atlanta. It's a great city, Candace said. She shook her head. She didn't want to talk about home right now. Can you pull up a picture of James Parker? Brandon did as she asked. Candace squinted at the screen, then back at the photo of Chip Douglas. His father was a closer match than him. Okay, so it's probably not him. Maybe James Parker was a student at Wallace. It's worth a look. They divvied up the yearbooks and quickly flipped through the pages. No students were named James Parker. They then spent the next 2 hours slowly paging through the Wallace yearbooks again, writing down the names of anyone that remotely resembled James Parker. One by one, internet searchers dropped each person from consideration. Candace crossed the last name off the list. What are we missing? There's got to be a connection between Parker and this city. I know you don't want to hear this, Brandon began, but maybe we're going about this wrong. I kept thinking about the Weston game. Have you started it yet? She shook her head. Sorry, I was too busy coming up with Milo's schedule. Brandon rolled his eyes. Okay, so I'll give you a pass, but you still need to read it, and soon. He tapped the table. Anyway, I'm starting to wonder if we're missing a clue somewhere. I need to read that letter again. I've read it 1,000 times, Candace said as she pulled the stack of Perkins High School yearbooks toward her. I'll take my chances with these. Maybe Parker had been a teacher there earlier in the 50s. She opened in 1956. A few seconds later, she slammed it shut. What is it? Brandon asked. She shook her head, then blinked hard. The jagged purple words that had been scrawled across the page remained seared in her brain. Candace? Someone who wrote something in the yearbook, something stupid and ugly and racist. She pressed down hard on the book, like she was trying to stop the words from escaping. Well, those were different times back then. I'm sure it's not old. They dated it. Brandon gently moved Candace's hands from the book, then opened it. Candace could see his gaze floating across every disgusting word. It's amazing how someone could insult black people, gay people, and women all at the same time, Brandon said. And they didn't even spell the word right. I think it's, Niger. Yeah, Niger. Niger with one G is a country in Africa. Yeah, one G. Keep in mind, one G. Don't say it wrong. For some reason, that made Candace crack up. Then Brandon laughed. And once they started, they couldn't stop. What's got to you? What's got you two laughing so hard? Miss McMillan asked as she walked up to them. Brandon wiped the tears away from his face. Racists don't know how to spell. Facts, they don't. Come again? Candace picked up the yearbook and handed it to her. Someone vandalized this. Now that she had been laughing, the words didn't feel so powerful anymore. Miss McMillan read the page. Oh, I see. Then she smiled. And yes, if they're going to go through all the hassle to vandalize one of my books, you think they checked their spelling? Facts. Do you know who did it? Candace asked. Probably some knucklehead who was forced to work in here during in-school suspension. She stuck the book under her arm. I'll grab another for you. You can take it with you. I should probably be locking up soon. What about those photos? Candace asked, nodding at the dolly. Don't worry about them, she said. Deacon Draper said he'd send someone later this week to pick them up. But if y'all could help me push them in the corner, I appreciate it. Candace and Brandon helped Miss McMillan move the photos. Once they finished, Candace took the Wallace and Perkins yearbooks from 1956 and 1957 and slipped them into the Brandon's backpack. I promise you, we won't mess them up. I trust you, Miss McMillan said. I hope you find what you're looking for. The sun seemed way too bright when Candace and Brandon pushed the door open and stepped onto the sidewalk. He glanced at his watch. According to your schedule, we got about 2 hours to kill before Milo's tied up in another activity. Chili cheese dog time? Candace asked. I'll look at some chili cheese dogs. Yep. Then he snapped his fingers. There you go. And patted his pockets. I think I left Tori's phone in the memorial room. He went to open the door. It didn't budge. He banged on it a few times. Hello, anyone in there? Candace pulled out her mother's phone. Any chance you remember Mrs. McMillan's number? No, but if I call my sister's phone, I don't know where I got the word think from, my bad. Maybe Miss McMillan will hear it. He took the phone and dialed the number. Went to voicemail. He said after a few seconds, you can try again, and a door directly to the left of them swung open. It could have smacked Candace in the head if she had been standing any closer. What in the world is going on out here? A thin man in khakis and a polo glared at them as he stepped outside. His gray hair was slicked back on his head, and his skin was red, like he'd spent too much time in the sun, you think. Hello, Mr. Rittenhauer. Brandon turned to Candace. He's one of the assistant principals. Mr. Rittenhauer let the door bang shut behind him, then crossed his arms. You didn't answer my question. What are you two up to? None of your business. We're here for research, Brandon said. We were in the memorial room. Son, the only thing I hate more than a thief is a liar. Want to try that again? Brandon frowned. Sir, I don't understand. I've been here all afternoon. There aren't any teachers here to let you in the school, much less the memorial room. He pointed to the parking lot. There's only one car out there, mine. Candace wheeled, her mouth open. Miss McMillan is in there right now. I promise. Just check. We'll wait here. Like you would be here when I got back. You don't even look old enough to be high school students. Let me see your IDs, he said, snapping his fingers. I don't have an ID card, Candace said. Me either, Brandon said. Isn't that convenient, he said. What are your names and your phone numbers? I need to call your parents. But we weren't doing anything wrong, Brandon said. We weren't doing anything wrong. Watch your tone, young man, he stepped forward. And what's in those backpacks? Everything was happening too fast and all wrong. Candace had seen her mother answer enough questions about her father to know how to handle people who were being rude or nosy. This was something else, something darker. The main door opened as she and Brandon unzipped their backpacks. Miss McMillan stepped outside. Brandon, you forgot your O. Hello, Mr. Rittenhauer. The assistant principal's mouth sagged open. Miss McMillan, what are you doing here? Where's your car? My cousin's car is in the shop, so I'll let her use mine for the day. Miss McMillan handed the phone to Brandon. Here you go, hon. Good thing I called you before you left. Brandon kept his gaze on the ground as he stuffed the phone into his backpack. Thank you, he mumbled. That makes no sense. Miss McMillan frowned. Brandon, Candace, everything okay? Everything's fine now, Mr. Rittenhauer said. Just a little misunderstanding. He patted Brandon's shoulder, making him flinch. You two go on home. Candace's hands had already turned into fists. Psh. And her eyes stung. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was not a misunderstanding. She knew that. So did Brandon. But that probably didn't matter. Thanks again for the books, Brandon said, finally looking up at Miss McMillan. His eyes were watering, but no tears spilled out. They grabbed their bikes and walked them away from the building. She didn't turn around to see if Mr. Rittenhauer was looking at them. She didn't want to know. I guess we better bring our IDs next time, Brandon said. He sputtered out a bit of a laugh. I don't even have a real ID card. Just one from school. Yeah, me too. They paused at the edge of the street. Can we take a rain check on those chili cheese dogs, he asked. I'm not really hungry anymore. Me neither, Candace said. But what about Milo? I'll take my chances, Brandon said. I just really want to go home. Candace nodded, then climbed on her bike and followed her friend. And that was chapter 22. So tomorrow we'll be reading chapter 23. And that's about it. Peace out.